Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. NTNM on the web. Check out all our videos on YouTube through that. Close to 300,000 watched. CommunityPolicingCaps24.org. It is a pleasure to introduce you to a candidate for alderman in the 44th Ward, and that's Mark Thomas. Mark, how you doing?
Good, Avi. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
First of all, pleasure. Thank you. And I want to thank Angie Brugilio, if I'm pronouncing that right.
You are.
Making the arrangements. And why don't you tell us, well, first of all, where's the 44th Ward?
So the 44th Ward is Lakeview. So if you think about Diversey to the lake to Ashland, we go up as far as Irving Park, but of course it's gerrymandered around a little bit.
In Chicago?
Yes.
No.
Yes, just a little.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
So I've owned the alley stores at Belmont and Clark for almost 40 years. We were at Broadway and Surf before that. I grew up in Lakeview. My sisters had gone to Anshemet. We had a very diverse life. My parents got divorced in the middle of our education, so I ended up getting thrown out of Latin school for non-payment of tuition, and ended up graduating from Holy Name Cathedral. So kind of a mixed life there.
Oh, so that's how the alley started.
So that was how the alley started, and I took $3,500 in savings bonds that were gifted to me at birth, and I cashed them, and at 17 I went out and hand wrote a contract and bought a jewelry business that I still run to this day.
Actually, over the years I've read a lot about you. I used to read The Reader when there was more to read
Sure.
in great detail, and you always had a presence in there, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
Ben Jarofsky and I had a great time, and he wrote a lot of wonderful articles, and then I was background for a lot of stuff for him too.
Cool. Very cool. So you're definitely involved in the community over there.
I started the Central Lakeview Merchants. I started SSA 17. I have been at the corner of Belmont and Clark since 1986, and then I was at Broadway and Surf from 1972 on. So we've been in the community almost 40 years.
Wow. What do you consider the major issues? Why you're running? What do you want to accomplish?
Well, the alderman and I, I'd been a big supporter of Tom actually for many years, and when the last time he ran, I walked the street and I put out his Tom Tunney for Alderman signs. We came to a real major disagreement when it started with Walmart coming into the community, and I'm on the board of Local First Chicago, and I just didn't think that Walmart was fitting for Lakeview. So that was kind of where we started to differ. And then, we started to see business start to deteriorate in Lakeview. And, I was kind of the go-to person in Lakeview for a lot of people. And so, that's where our difference of opinion started.
And so you're hitting the campaign trail now.
Well, we announced a year ago. We started off literally in October a year ago. We kind of shut down for a short time because we had the March elections and then obviously the November elections, and I had a scheduled surgery that was supposed to be in March that ended up being in May. So I have some screws and some nuts and bolts in my neck. My wife says that I have a screw loose now.
Oh, and by the way, just for those of you who aren't aware, he is one of us, so I'll point that out. So, during your Marty Levinson, you mentioned crime. How is crime doing over there?
Well, crime has become a catastrophe to the community, so we really don't have huge and heavy and terrible crime, but we have really unsightly crime, and people are getting knocked down, they're getting their iPhones taken away, people are coming in people's windows, they're breaking into garages, and so I've been a stickler about crime since the day I arrived there. I came from a law enforcement family. My dad was a doc out in Gary, Indiana, but he was also the Gary Police Commissioner, later on elected the Lake County, Indiana coroner. He was the Teamsters Union workman's comp doctor, so I kind of grew up in a Teamsters police house.
That's definitely, for a nice Jewish family, that's definitely not usual.
There's some diversity in our family, as there was in my education.
No question about it. Actually, you reminded me this is your segment, but I used to cover the town hall district over there. I'll tell you after the year.
Sure. So anyway, there's three really, the core of our platform is threefold. Number one, to fix anything in the community, the first thing we have to do is clean up crime. And when I got to the community in 1986, there were problems, and so I went to the alderman at the time, and we found ourselves some off-duty police officers, and I stood out there with the off-duty police officers, and we basically made the gangbangers and drug dealers and prostitutes really uncomfortable, and we moved the crime away from our portion of the community. And so what I propose to do is take some of the alderman's menu money and get off-duty police officers, and I've committed to go back out on the street 30, 40 weekends a year from 10 o'clock at night until 3 in the morning, driving around with Chicago police officers, and when we see something happen, we'll dial 911 first, we'll try to get a car out there. If we see somebody obviously getting attacked, we will have those police officers jump in. Police officers are on duty 24 hours a day in Chicago. If it's not a serious issue, then we'll wait for a car to respond, and then we'll point out the wrongdoers. And I believe that you've really got to put people in jail when they break the law. So I think that, we have a very small area where we have crime. It's basically Sheffield, Belmont, Halstead, Clark, and, there's some little side streets, but there's only about 8 or 9 running blocks, and it all comes off the L. And so, part of this is we really, you're not going to turn around Lakeview if you don't get our reputation to be better and we get away from crime. The second thing is that I really think that we have torn the U.S. Constitution into pieces. I don't think there's much of a democracy left here. And so the next thing I would do, again with some menu money, is I would go out and get cameras like you're using, Avi, and I would start videoing every community group that meets, and I would webcast it, and I would archive it just the way you do, and that way that everybody in the ward could see how the different portions of the community are making decisions. And I would hope that eventually I could get some of those community leaders to allow people to actually vote on major issues from home, and we've actually built a secure website that we could give to each individual group so they could put their members in, and nobody but those members could get in and vote.
Very cool. Mickey's hands are about there right now. So,
okay.
You got a website, I'm sure, contact information?
Vote for Mark Thomas, and that's markthomas.org. And you can reach me there easily. Just shoot an email to me at info@voteformarkthomas.org.
Very good. I want to thank you very much, and good luck in the campaign.
Thank you, Avi. Thanks for having me.